Prime Minister Modi is now calling for a global framework on ethical use of artificial intelligence. Remember, artificial intelligence, the use of it and the risk associated with it have been one of the talking points here in India, with government reiterating again and again that there will be regulations, and regulations will tame artificial intelligence enough so that there are checks and balances in place without curtailing any innovation. The government is making sure that they will not be curtailing innovation, they will not be curtailing anything, any sort of money that has been coming into the country by the way of funding for AI and AI prospects. At the same time, the government is clear. There has to be regulation. There has to be regulation for the ethical use of AI, Krishna.
And there has to be a global regulation. That's what Prime Minister Modi is pitching for, and we've been pitching for it with Prime Minister Modi from our G20 presidency summit onwards. If one of the stated agendas of India's G20 presidency at the G20 summit that was held this year was about, one of the stated agenda was definitely about having a global framework for regulation. So in that sense, Prime Minister Modi pushing for it was not just one at the summit alone, consistently pushing for the world to come together to have global artificial intelligence regulations, because most of AI tech right now is made outside of India. So, made mostly in the US. So, in that sense,
I mean, it's a question I think everybody is mulling right now.
Right.
Regulations, of course, needed very much, but to what extent? Where is it that we draw a line between innovating as opposed to hurting the democracy, hurting the flow of information, and spurring disinformation, misinformation,
and deep fakes.
And deep fakes. I mean, come to think of it, Krishna, deep fakes are hurting every country at the moment, but especially when you talk of India and the US, which are going to go to election, two biggest economies of the world going to go to elections, and they will take a direct beating if deep fakes are not curbed, not curtailed.
Right. They have real concerns in that sense, existential concerns with big events lined up in the country. So clearly, that is on top of mind as far as India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is concerned. That's why he's repeatedly asking for a global regulation, even as we formulate laws over here in India to crack down on deepfakes to start with, and then to go forward to have a overall framework for AI and regulation. And as you're rightly pointing out, it's regulation without curbing innovation. That's the kind of regulation that we're looking at. But, in the absence of any regulation at this stage, I think the first thing that they want is to have some kind of a overarching regulatory framework for artificial intelligence in place. And fingers crossed that overarching regulatory framework doesn't interfere with innovation. In fact, encourages more artificial intelligence innovation in India so that we can export some of that technology outside.
Absolutely, and that is the call, of course, that Prime Minister Modi is making at the moment. He is suggesting that there is a need for regulation, a regulation that in fact will not curtail and will not have an impact on the growth of AI in the country. Also, encourage the use of AI for ethical reasons, and that is the clarion call made by the Prime Minister. Remember, India is waiting to get some sort of regulations on AI, which will happen perhaps very, very soon.